and welcome back to the Intel Extreme Masters Toronto. The group stages are done, the playoffs are set, and coming up is our first quarterfinal matchup. We've now moved to best of 5, reduced the variance, increased the ownage. Are you guys ready? Let me see that sign, man. Summer of Taeja, I think it just might be. I think it might be. Well, our players are ready. First, I'm going to bring out the reigning Intel Extreme Master champion, 11 StarCraft 2 titles, more than any other player in the world. He dominated his group, and he just may be having a really good summer. Put your hands together for Liquid Taeja. And his opponent, from South Korea, but training and living now in the United States of America. He is definitely the underdog, and he squeezed out of his group. It's gonna be tough, but he's got the muscles to do it. Please, scream and shout for viOlet.
Okay, someone should tell viOlet we're in Canada. Just saying. Normally that would have been okay, I guess, because he would have got the crowd support, but we're in Canada and the flag's red and white, and if he'd come out with one of them, I'm pretty sure they would have cheered louder for him. Joking aside, this is a great way to start the quarterfinals off. Couple of great players. violet's been very scrappy and feisty through the qualifiers and through the group stages. Taeja, on the other hand, had a very straightforward run in what looked like a very difficult group.
Yeah, I think so. And overall, going into this series now, I have to give Taeja the edge because of just how we watch his TvZ and how it kind of plays out. If you remember back to the Intel Extreme Master Shenzhen, remember the finals of that, very, very close series against a guy that's doing really well right now, Solar, but Taeja always finds a way. Yeah,
I mean, viOlet, Todd, he's a weird kind of player in a way. We've known what he can do in the past, but he hasn't done it for a while, and then this year seems to be knocking on the door, top 4 all the time, but not quite getting to that final. What does he need for that last little jump to a championship?
He needs to start beating the bigger players, the biggest players out there. And I mean, against Taeja here would be a good start to maybe try and get to the finals here or even win. But Taeja just doesn't lose to Zerg. He said it in Detroit a week ago. I think it was before playing maybe Petraeus or something. Right. He said, I can't lose to Zerg in an interview. That's exactly what he said. So if he thinks like that, he has a lot of confidence, and it's going to be hard to beat that guy. Yeah, it's almost like you feel if he can avoid any Terrans before the final, he's got another shot at yet another title. Yeah, and even Terran sometimes can just be like a blip. I mean, that Pol series that we saw from him then, and then what he was doing before in the group stage, I mean, he's still able to hang with the best of them, of course. So it's no manner of insult. Is there anything that viOlet can do, map-wise, that might just give him a little edge here against Taeja? Maybe throw in a couple all-ins that Taeja wouldn't expect, but it's best of 5, so I mean, it lowers his chances even more if you think about it. Best of 3, you know, you could have tried to get lucky here and there, but I don't know, in straight-up games, I just don't see it happening. It's going to be so difficult for him. Yeah, Taeja has only lost one best of 5 in the last 9 months, and that was to Pol a couple of weeks ago, so he knows how to win these games, doesn't he? Yeah, he does. The thing is that with a best of 5 from best of 3, like transitioning on from that, the variance that viOlet can really bring, of course he has a lot of bags of tricks to open, but Taeja's just solid all around and across a best of 5. That's why he loses so little in that situation, because he just always brings his A game to all of these games, and across the best of 5, that's very difficult to beat. Talking team-wise, just for a second, the teams that have done very well, we've got 2 TCM players in the quarterfinals. The Team Liquid boys are represented in the quarterfinals by 2, and we've got 2 KT Rolster. That's pretty good for the teams, I guess. I mean, I'm making too much of a thing of it, but it just seems strange how these teams have got multiple players through to the quarterfinals and others have not even get one through. Yeah, good teams overall. Good teams. KT Rolster, best team in the world. Team Liquid, potentially best non-Korean team in the world. Acer would challenge that. But anyway, there's Koreans on these teams already. And Team TCM, TCM doing cool in Europe. New kids on the block. We'll go with that. New kids on the block. They're still bedding their. They're on honeymoon period, I think, in StarCraft 2. I think let's put it like that. Enjoying themselves immensely with 2 players already into the quarterfinals. Prediction time then. viOlet would start this as the massive underdog, I guess, on paper.
and maybe in every way, but he's still got a shot. Yes, no?
I think no. I love him. I love him to death, but I don't think he can beat Taeja.
I was hoping for some, All right, so we're going to go with dead underdog, and if he pulls this off, it's going to be one of the biggest surprises of the year.
I've done all right so far, and
Yeah.
I'll just go that further
Right.
again, and I'll be like 3-0. There you go to Taeja.
Really? Okay.
He's that strong.
You don't want to brag at all about the last match?
No, that's okay. That's okay.
Really? That's unlike you.
Wow. Is it? I thought I was quite humble.
No. Well, you weren't when I came over here. 2-0. I said 2-0 to Flat, and the crowd all saw him, right? In the front row?
Maybe.
Crowd all saw them. Look, they're all nodding right now. They all nodded. You
was happy
pointed at
with
me and
that.
you said 2-0.
I'm okay with that. Like,
Yeah.
just once. Just
All
once.
right, okay. We'll let you off. So you're saying 3-0, Todd?
Sure.
Yeah.
3-0 as well?
Yeah, 3-0.
Wow. No support whatsoever over here on the couch, unfortunately, for poor viOlet. I'm hoping there's a little more with our friends at the commentary desk. Let's go and find out.
Well, Paul, I'm not gonna lie. Things are looking a bit bleak for viOlet. I love him. He's a great guy. We had some great talks with him. Taeja is that abominable monster that walks into every tournament and you're like, please do not put me in the same side of the bracket as him, because then at least I can lose the finals to him.
And then he lost the finals.
Then he lost to Pol.
Yeah, and Polt's already out. So does that mean nobody can beat Taeja in this tournament?
Maybe.
Maybe.
The thing is, viOlet has a lot more to fight for here than Taeja. Taeja is already guaranteed to be in WCS top 16. He's going to BlizzCon. viOlet is very close. He needs WCS points. Every round he gets further here, it doesn't necessarily guarantee him, but it gives him a better shot if the other players that are also around his rank, around that 16th position, don't get any more points. So at this rate, he's just trying to get a little bit more safe, especially when he's got to deal with Snoot, who's also still alive.
Yep. There's a lot of there's not a ton of players, but there's a significant amount that for them this tournament is much more about BlizzCon than anything else, because BlizzCon is going to be the event.
Yeah. He's got a lot of tournaments, he's got a lot of prize money.
That's okay.
But he definitely has, I would say, not as much on the line as viOlet for this series. So,
Yeah, I mean, of course, you're always playing to win. Oh, we have a small technical difficulty.
couple of our multiple language streamers dropped.
Yep.
We dropped kind of, so we're just going to rehost the game. But yeah, I think for viOlet, as nice as the prize money is, you're right. It's all about BlizzCon for these players.
Right.
You know, if Snoot, I like to make this still comparison. If Snoot or viOlet could turn their prize money they make from this tournament into WCS points,
Yep.
at this point they might actually do that just to get into BlizzCon.
Yep.
So we're rehosting things. We're getting everything set up.
Yeah,
Shouldn't be too long before we jump into this series.
We're going to go right back to Nimbus. The spawn positions are already set because we are resuming from replay, so there will be literally no difference at all except for just a minute or two.
I think one other thing that's also important to talk about, be pretty cool if Taeja continues his run on and does end up, for example, winning this tournament. He would join CJ Hero as one of the players that have won back-to-back Intel Extreme Masters, since he did just take victory at Shenzhen a little bit over around a month ago.
And that was the finals there. He actually ended up winning only 4-3. One of the closest finals that Taeja has probably ever had against Solar. Probably one of the strongest opponents he's had in a final. And let's talk a little bit about Nimbus. Nimbus TvZ. Very often, CC first, almost always hatch first. Sometimes we'll see one Reaper. Most people do not go for a 3 Reaper opening just because it's too easy to defend that one ramp. There's only really one entrance into your base, and the ramp to go in by ground is right next to the cliff in which the Reapers would jump up, so you can kind of defend them both at the same time.
Yeah, Nimbus is definitely not the strongest Reaper map. I'd agree with you there. Taeja has shown a propensity towards the single Reaper openings just to get that scout off, and then moving into plays like the Hellion run by while dropping in the main base. He liked this build in WCS America where he was able to advance, of course, both viOlet and Taeja in the round of 16 for WCS, but it's time to find out which one of these players is going to go on out of these quarterfinals and which one's going home. Our first player in the bottom right position of Nimbus, the blue Terran from Team Liquid, he is Taeja.
And in the top right-hand corner, he's playing not just for this tournament, but for his life at BlizzCon. He's known as viOlet.
And then the USA chants begin for those who believe it's okay to wear the flag of another country out on a stage. But, you know, the Canadians are so nice, I guess they're not going to make too much of a ruckus about it. I have to say, though, you mentioned something very important. Taeja lost, I believe, his second ever tournament finals that he's made it to and lost was against Polt just about a week ago at the Battlegrounds Detroit.
Yep.
Polt had a lot more on the line for that tournament than prize money. Polt had tried 3 times. He had 3 second-place finishes prior to that event that would have qualified him for Battlegrounds DC. And to him, getting there was more important than the prize money. To viOlet, getting to the next round and getting those WCS points means a lot more to him than the prize money. So he has, I think, do you get a mental boost when you feel like you're fighting for something other than just, you know, oh, I'm playing in a tournament and I want to obviously get far?
I don't know, man. For me, just the thrill of competition, playing on the stage in front of so many people, knowing that so many people are watching how I play, they're going to be judging what I do, and they're going to be captivated by the moves that I make. Just having that is enough. Adding even more pressure, even more reward, even more potential to it. You know, it's what we do this for. It's why we're here. It's why all these pro gamers are on the stage right now. And so I think both of these players are really going to be putting everything they have into this game.
Yeah, I got to say, this might be, if you look at statistically how well all these players in this tournament have done this year, he very well could be up against the strongest opponent that he would face as far as streaks go, unless he were to maybe play against, you know, somebody like Flash. But
yep, Flash right now in dominant form in Korea, showing us some good games recently. And now we're going to see early expand from Taeja, 1 Reaper into Reactor, and this is probably the most common way to play this map. viOlet, meanwhile, is going for Gasless opening. And so what this means is viOlet's not going to have a lot of opportunities for counter pressure or really any kind of aggression on the map for a long time, but he's going to have a very strong economy and opportunities to take his third relatively early.
Yep. viOlet has shown a very strong tendency in all of his matches throughout the year as he tries to push back this Reaper, but to go for big Roach plays. viOlet loves his Roaches. He loves his 1-1 Roach attacks, and he also loves the 1-1 Roach into the 2-2 Roach Hydra bust off of 3 bases. So there's a big chance we see some non-standard play, or I guess it's becoming a little bit more standard. We're seeing more players busted out, but not everyone has quite adopted this style.
I think Roach... Oh, no, Taeja! A big blunder here. The first Reaper goes down, and that's important in a lot of different ways. One, it's just you just know, like, maybe Taeja's not really playing his best game right now. That's a big mistake to start a series on. Yeah. And the other thing is, against Gasless opening, the Reaper is the main defense you have against allowing your opponent to establish that really early third and droning it up really quickly. Without the Reaper, viOlet can kind of take his third whenever he wants. And viOlet getting a little over-eager here with the Zerglings. I'm not... You know, I understand he really wanted to keep this Overlord alive, but 6 Zerglings against 4 Marines, that just wasn't going to happen.
And now he just lost a little bit more than he otherwise would have if he'd left it alone. He's going to lose the Overlord either way. But you're making a very good point. It's also really important for Taeja to scout the follow-up to the Gasless play if it is, in fact, going to be some sort of Roach tech. viOlet has now taken the gases in his natural expansion. So even if Hellions slip through, they'd have to go all the way back here and pretty much lock themselves in for life. And he even has these Queens parked on the ramp. He's like, yep, you're not coming in.
Yeah, and this is the other problem with losing that early Reaper is right now, a Reaper could easily get into viOlet's base, especially against Gasless. There's no speed. There's no fast units that can chase down a Reaper. Unless viOlet intercepts the Reaper right when it jumps up, it can basically check both bases. Right now, all Taeja knows is viOlet's on 2 base. Yeah. He doesn't know the gas timings. I mean, a layer could have started already. A layer could be finishing soon, depending on how early viOlet took his gases, and now we do have a drop from Taeja. This is going to get him a lot of information. I'm not really sure Violet's ready for this.
Yeah, this is something Taeja's busted out quite a few times. We saw this yesterday as well, and these Marines just going to work on these drones. And the
big
Hellions.
mistake from Violet. The Queens not together, and 4 Hellions are going to get into the main.
Oh no, QXC, the drones are stacked up. This splash damage is roasting Violet's workers. And we saw something very similar to this in Flash versus Scarlet yesterday.
Yep.
Yes, this attack will be stopped, but 20 workers, almost a mirror of the forces lost in that game yesterday.
Yeah, and now Taeja actually has the worker lead. Both players on 2 bases, and the Hellions continue to roast. More drones are going to fall. Is Taeja going to be able to get that last one? No, he's not. Violet stabilizes after 23 workers are killed. This is going to make everything he does so much more difficult.
Yeah, Violet starts off his Roach Warren. He does not have a lair. Okay, his lair is the only thing he has. Excuse me. He doesn't have any evolution chambers. He does not have a third base. And without those 2 things, if you're just going to try to play Roaches after losing that many drones, I don't think it should be possible for him to get on enough forces to break the 5 barrack setup that Taeja's going for.
Yeah, well, when you get behind that much economically, everything you do is going to be weaker than it would be otherwise. You have to rely on outplaying your opponent, outthinking your opponent, because normal play is just not going to cut it. Violet is not going to be able to just make a big army and attack Taeja, especially now he just scanned. He saw the Roach Warren. He knows the potential for Roaches. He saw the lair, and Taeja's actually going to land his 3rd now and begin saturating it. Violet's still on 2 bases. He's only just now recovered, and he's building an infestation pit.
Yep. So the infestation pit.
Why is he building an infestation pit?
How many people do you think are going to lose lots of drones and try to just build swarm hosts like Snoot?
Well, but why do you have to lose drones to do that?
I don't know. And maybe he's not feeling comfortable. He's been forced into a position where I feel like he has to take some sort of risk, and maybe just trying to do something really out there, or maybe infestors.
I'm thinking infestors more than I'm thinking swarmos. I was doing a little bit of mental analysis on swarmos, and they feel like a unit that is more supply efficient than they are cost efficient. And what that means is swarm hosts are excellent when supply is the limiting factor. They allow you to increase the density of your army, but at this point in the game, you want the units that give you the most bang for their cost. Minerals and gas are your limiting factor, and swarm hosts right now are just not going to be that effective. We do see pathogen glands, as you said, infestors. He should be starting a round of infestors shortly here, maybe starting 1-1. 3rd hatchery is almost done, but Taeja's got an army. He's got medevacs. Violet has 12 roaches.
Yeah, that's not going to be super effective. He has to wait about 50 seconds now for these infestors to finish up. They will come out with enough energy for a fungal growth, but Taeja, he's not the kind of guy that usually slips up and does not notice things like this. So he's going to clean up the creep. I don't know if there's much reason for him to keep moving forward.
Is he going to go in?
Yeah, I don't know if he can break him. On creep with speed, the roaches are still going to trade without combat shield, especially on these Marines.
The issue for Violet right now is those are 1-1 Marines, and he's just gonna get out of there. Violet can immediately reseed some of this creep, but Taeja's not really going very far. He's gonna stay just off of creep and continue to pressure here, and Taeja's up to 60 workers. His economy is so much stronger than Violet's. A little bit of a back and forth here. Fungal growth does not hit very much, and he needs some good fungals if he wants to make this fight go in his favor.
Yeah, medevac move forward to see everything. It gets picked off. Okay, another fungal lands, only hitting a few Marines, though. Gets another one on the right side, but with so many forces, with this many Marauders mixed in for Taeja and those upgrades that you mentioned, he is going to blow the doors down on this defense of Violet, stepping towards the 3rd base dimming, again, killing the infestors in the main while he chases down the Queens and the Roaches outside of the 3rd base. And Violet just does not have enough. Taeja set himself up way too well with that early aggression. GG. Game number 1 will go to the Liquid Terran player.
Yeah, in a very anticlimactic beginning to that series. Just those 2 queens at the front. The 2 queens on that map are enough to stop that run by. But because he was distracted by the drop in his natural, The queens were not positioned correctly. 4 Hellions get in, and all of a sudden, it was a disaster for viOlet.
Yeah, tough start to the series for him. Of course, keep in mind, guys, as we are now in the quarterfinals of the Intel Extreme Masters Toronto, all series played up until the grand final themselves. We can be best of 5. So Taeja needs to win 2 more maps. viOlet needs to win 3 if he wants to get out of here.
The fortunate thing for viOlet, at least psychologically, is that loss was not really much evidence of a skill disparity. It wasn't like a big, long, mid, and late game where Taeja outmaneuvered him, outpositioned. Like, he made one mistake at the beginning. He kept his queens apart, and from there on, it was such an uphill battle. He needed to choose. Basically what happens when you get behind economically is you're kind of forced to choose one thing to focus on. If you just decide, like, oh, you're going to try and continue playing as normally, you kind of enter into a normal macro game where you're just really far behind. There's a lot of opportunities. What a lot of players will do is they get behind and then they'll skip upgrades and they'll just make as many units as they can, or they'll skip making units and they'll go really hard on drones. You have to do something to give yourself an edge in the game. And so at the very least, you're not playing a normal game. You're playing like this weird, very exaggerated version of a normal game.
Yeah.
And in that case, it just wasn't enough. The control from Taeja was too strong, mitigated the effect of those infestors. Because 1 or 2, if he fungles Taeja's army in a clump, and then he fungals it 3 more times, that would have been enough to defend. But Taeja was so on top of his scans, he knew exactly what he was getting into, spreads his army out, and there just wasn't a whole lot viOlet could do.
Yeah, I agree. It's I'm really interested to see if he brings out a similar style moving on in this series, as Taeja certainly knows the way he likes to play. And of course, he is our red Terran player in the bottom right position of Catalina. He represents Team Liquid. He needs 2 map wins to advance on at the Intel Extreme Masters. He is Taeja.
In the top middle, he's started off a little bit shaky, but he's one Zerg that will not be counted out. He's known as viOlet.
The cheers are getting more interesting.
I think we just got treated to a Canadian specialty.
The response to all the madness that started things off with this series, huh?
And barracks, 11 barracks here, so we're going to see 11 barracks, 11 gas.
3 Reapers?
Yep.
I love it on this map.
Almost certainly going to be 3 Reapers. It's so strong on this map. Unless you expect your opponent to really be ready for this or to have something special prepared, this is pretty much the opening you do on this map in this matchup. Meanwhile, looks like viOlet's just going to go hatchery first.
Yeah, it's still a pretty standard opening for the map. I will say that for the way that viOlet likes to play out this matchup, if you were to go for roaches, a third base is a little bit stretched out. You're not going to be able to cover your natural and your third, no matter which third you try to take, with just a couple of siege tanks. You can almost always force a Terran player out of position a little bit. So viOlet could still do it, but Taeja, do you think there's like a way that he can just make his build a little bit better against that style, or doesn't he even need to be concerned?
Against roaches, the biggest thing is just scouting. Is as long as you build the bunkers or you start the siege tanks or you make the marauders early enough, your army can deal with roaches without much trouble. Also changing up the transition a little bit like that. So Taeja so far seems to be pretty good with scouting. Last game, his scout force was 4 Hellions, a medevac, and 5 Marines. It got him all the information he needed. And this map, it's very hard to hide anything as a Zerg player because that opening into the main that the Reaper can jump up, he can just almost always get into the Zerg's main and figure out what's going on.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting how the maps have changed a lot, as most of the maps in the last couple of seasons were really good for Reapers. So we saw that the three Reaper opening was really popular. Nowadays, I haven't actually ever seen it on new maps except for this one because of that spot. So Taeja.
All right, a little bit of damage here. One drone takes some, runs it away, and Lings come out. Reaper's gonna back up. just going to try and do whatever damage he can. The Reaper interaction against Zerg early on is a little strange because often it feels like nothing happens. Like no Lings die, no drones die. Taeja actually already getting one Zergling there, so a little bit of a victory. But the Reaper just allows you so much pressure, and it forces the Zerg to kind of transition in a very specific way. Almost no builds, especially on this map, are going to be gasless because it's just so annoying to deal with the Reapers.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and then once you get up to 3 Reapers, you have enough damage output, especially with their health regeneration, to just, you can pick off queens, and once you start to snowball that, it gets very difficult to Zerg to focus on the important things like getting your creep spread up or injecting.
Right.
And then taking a third, don't even, it's not even worth thinking about because you're simply not going to get it if you don't have a little bit of map control.
Yeah, and that's what speed gets. So viOlet going for that relatively early speed. Second Ling goes down, third Ling goes down, fourth Ling. And actually, is the Queen going to fall? Taeja doing some very good micro here. One Reaper falls back, another Ling goes down. And Taeja's just going to back up here. That Queen sitting at 15 life, kind of in timeout right now.
Yeah, it would be a nice pickup, but Taeja was able, I believe, to see the gas. So
yeah,
he's coming back because this is about as late as a regular late gas would give you speed.
Well,
so he doesn't want to get caught off guard on the map with viOlet Zerglings.
When you go into the Zerg's base with the first Reaper, you can actually check the speed timing. It's 110 seconds for speed, so as soon as the pool starts wiggling, you subtract 10 seconds from the current timer, you add 2 minutes, you know exactly when it's going to finish. And Taeja's well aware of when that was going to happen, like you said, comes back in time. Ling's out on the map trying to catch Taeja unaware, but Taeja almost never makes this mistake. He'll be in his base probably until he has 6 Hellions and a full wall off. And if he is going to move out, it will usually be to check around his base. He very rarely gets caught by this sort of early speedling pressure.
Yep, and just like you said, he just starts the rest of his wall up, a supply depot, and both of his engineering bays that he'll use to get upgrades.
Yep.
And then he moves right on out. So this Overlord Scout for viOlet though is nice because it tells him, okay, this game, I don't have to worry about a fast drop. I don't have to worry about a Viking killing my Overlords. It's just a very standard straight-up play, which, dare I say, the Roach builds are pretty good versus.
No, he's not going to go in. Yep. Takes out some early creeps, scans the main. A little bit of a strange decision, considering he's got 3 Reapers. He could have easily done that with a Reaper, but scans the main, checks. Doesn't really see the important stuff. Lings go in, but a couple do get picked off. Does not know about the Roach Horn and the double Evo chambers in the natural, and that's the most important thing for Taeja to find out right now.
Yeah, it's interesting the way that these builds interact because typically the Roach player can get those upgrades started earlier than the Terran, which is what gives the real impact for that 1-1 Roach push.
Right.
But in this game, Taeja will have his upgrades earlier. And actually
Queen does go down.
Off a Queen.
And a lot of Hellions going down. The Roaches are now revealed to Taeja. Upgrades just now starting.
Oh, start Zergling upgrades. Melee.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah. Huh.
So maybe he wants Taeja to believe that it's a big Roach push coming in and that maybe he'll start up a couple extra bunkers or delay his own third. He's hoping that Taeja will hurt himself at this point.
Yeah, and Taeja actually scans the natural, confirms that it's not the likelihood that it's Roach Bane or any kind of like very early pre-layer timing is very low. You see double evolution chambers. You see them both wiggling. And so he doesn't have to worry about a bunch of extra bunkers, doesn't have to consider extra siege tanks, things like that. Well, any siege tanks, because you're not normally building them anyway. And meanwhile, viOlet's just going to continue to spread creep and saturate that third. And he's actually getting a Baneling Nest and a 4th hatchery.
Yeah, for all the creep spread denial that he didn't really, that third base he didn't really check on very much, and there's quite a few drones there already, so I feel like viOlet has to be happy with the saturation he has. He's put out a crazy amount of drones with these Hellions. They're going to try to punish this drone production.
One drone goes down. All the drones in the natural moving away here, and the Hellions are going to get in. Another couple of drones go down. The drones do blockade them out. They have taken classes, and a couple more drones fall. The Roaches are too slow to defend.
Taeja's Hellions are doing some work this game, and as long as 3 of these bad boys are alive, they're going to one-shot workers, continue to move behind the mineral line, gets us a few more. And that, against a player that you think might go Roaches, throwing away your Hellions before the Roach production really kicks in is never a bad idea.
Yeah, always, always. This is a very common thing we see.
17 workers killed.
Is when you scout Roaches, you try and find where the roaches aren't, and you throw your Hellions at drones, because the Hellions they're not gonna fight the roaches, and the roaches are so slow that it's really hard for you to mistakenly lose your Hellions the same way you might against a big Speedling force.
Yeah, Baneling speed and Roach speed start for viOlet. So maybe we're going to see a little, I want to say old school Hyunish style, where you just go Roach, Ling, Bane. You don't rely on Mutalisk, you don't rely on Aspire. But that has a pretty big disadvantage of making things like these Medivacs very annoying.
Yep. And if that's the style viOlet is choosing to do, he picked the right third base here. That third base, it's harder for Taeja to bounce back and forth, but Taeja moving on a creep here, scanning. Again, he sees viOlet's composition, so he should be able to get ready for Roach Bane. Did he?
I think he manually detonated those Banelings.
I think he might have.
Lost quite a few more than he was intending to.
Medivacs are going to speed away back to the third. Taeja on a fully saturated 3-base. viOlet also on fully saturated 3-base, but no 4th base coming for viOlet.
No.
And,
you think he's just going to try to hit with Roach speed, and maybe just his +2 upgrades?
Nope. They just started Aspire.
Okay.
I am not sure what Violet's
I think he's feeling the heat right now.
Yeah,
QXC.
Violet's decision making here is a little inconsistent. He's went for the early Roaches, early Roach speed, and now he's gonna get a couple of good connections. A lot of Taeja's army forced to pick up. He's gonna have to go back home, and now Violet's moving into his 3rd base.
I mean, this is what you want to do with this style. You overwhelm a Terran push, and then you just run in and swallow them whole. Now, this Widowmine not really doing a whole lot, but Taeja, if he can hold on to this 3rd base, I still think he's in an okay position. These Roaches are trying to come in and finish off these Marines before the additional reinforcements come in, but they will not be able to.
Yep.
And look at everything that Taeja has coming in now. The vehicle weapons, he's building Thors, he's also got Widowmines coming out, and those 2-2 upgrades. He's going to lay waste to these Roach forces soon. He has to make the switch in Aspire. It's just, it's not quite as fast as you would typically see it in a Zerg versus Terran.
Yeah, and Taeja now with a significant 20 supply lead. viOlet, again, with no 4th base. He's going to stay on 3 bases for the time being, try and use that to defend these pushes. Big Ling run by going around now. He's going to try and hold just on creep, and Taeja continuously tries to bait him into that Widowmine.
I like this. He wants to try to swing by. The depot is lowered.
Go.
The Zerglings get in. There's a Thor, some Marines. He wants to move into the mineral line too. He's actually going to be able to kill a few SCVs. He's just trying to run away and not quite able to slip through. The whole position on the ramp prevents any further damage from being done. But it was a lot of Zerglings to throw away for just 9
Huge
SCVs.
Widowmine detonations, and viOlet's counter is not really. Taeja's going to be able to push a little bit further onto creep.
Yep. These Banelings get
Taeja.
some really nice hits. Taeja, a bit distracted, it would seem.
Yeah, and that was like 3 Banelings for maybe 15 or 20 Marines. The supplies are equal once again. Although Taeja's army continues to be the larger force in the game. Aspire is done. Upgrades now are even? Is that right? I think they're even.
Yeah, 2-2.
They're even.
Both players have the 2-2 upgrades. Those Thors have +1 as well, which makes them very scary to deal for these Mutalisks.
And Taeja's already started his +3. Meanwhile, viOlet, no +1 air. 4th base now just starting at the 16-minute mark. Taeja's 4th command center is earlier than viOlet's 4th hatchery. And that's not a position you want to be in as a Zerg player. It's going to be very hard for him to make the cost-efficient trades he needs. The creep spread is quickly dwindling. viOlet's just got to hold on. He's got to make something happen here, but okay, here we go, viOlet.
Yeah, he's trying to flank it from the left side. The Widowmine's not really doing a whole lot. Just a couple Banelings off creep. Most of them have detonated. The Marine force, there's a lot left over. Pushes through the Zerglings. There's only a handful of Roaches. 10 Banelings are on the way. They're the only Banelings that viOlet will have, and Taeja wants to just step down this rip and kill all of them. The Mutalisks dying with these Roaches. I think some of the Banelings will finish QXC, but I just don't believe that there'll be enough to stop all of it.
Taeja now sitting at a comfortable 40 supply lead. He's picking up some of his Marines. The Banelings are going to detonate. More Lings spring out of that hatchery. Can viOlet actually repel this force? It looks like he's going to hold for now, but there's a huge army from Taeja coming to reinforce.
Taeja up 40 supply now against his Zerg foe. Loads up a Medivac or 2 to the left side. He wants to deny this 4th base. He can go for the main. He can go wherever he wants because 10 Mutalisks being built means there's less Banelings. He has 11 Banelings on the way, and this is really all that can stop Taeja. But with this many Marauders, I'm not even sure how concerned he is anymore.
Yep. The Marines on the side here are going to put a lot of pressure on viOlet's army. He's got to split it up, make sure that he can still defend both fronts here. Taeja trying to get away here. The Mutalisks are chasing him down, but meanwhile, Taeja is pushing into viOlet's third base. Widowmine's very aggressively burrowed here. Since there's no Mutalisk, Taeja can continuously load and unload his units into the medevac bank, making it hard to connect with the ground army of viOlet.
Yeah, Taeja's pretty impressive. Marauder count 9 up here, soaking up so many hits from the Zerglings and the Banelings. Just too strong to stop, and Taeja takes game number 2, 1 map away from moving on past the quarterfinals.
Yeah, and Taeja is looking unstoppable.
He's looking like Taeja.
Yeah, standard Taeja.
This guy just, he's not very good at losing. And I have to say, just really solid scouting. His build order on the map, I think, was also good, too. He was able to, as you mentioned, see the gas timing, which allowed him to prepare and pull his Reapers back just in time. The Zerglings weren't able to accomplish anything. And that's it's really rough for viOlet, because at this point, you've tried to do the Roach opening. You lost a lot to the counter pressure. You tried to do what seemed like it could have ended up being another Roach opening, but still, taking hits from things like these Hellion run-bys, these are the kinds of things that you have to be able to completely shut down if you want to beat someone as good as Taeja.
Yeah, and these little mistakes, none of the games we've seen have been fair. And what I mean by that is, by the 10 or 15 minute mark, Taeja has already had such a huge advantage carried over from these early Hellion run-bys. We haven't really seen what viOlet can do when his economy isn't so hitted. Taeja is so relentless about finding those weaknesses and exploiting them as much as he can, and it's making it very hard for viOlet to kind of walk the fine line between being too safe and too risky, too open to threats.
Yeah, the thing is, Taeja just covers all his tracks, right? From every tiny detail. If you're a Terran player and you're like, well, is Taeja is he not mortal? No, it's very simple. The tiny things, the Hellions, keeping them on his ramp and his main base. You said it. He waits until he can finish a wall. These things prevent all the tiny things that players like me lose to. When you're like, oh, let's go move my units out, 6, 10 Zerglings running, kill half your SCVs. You're like, man, I suddenly feel like I don't have as many resources as I should. Those things do not happen to Taeja because he is very methodical about the way he plays this game.
Yep, he knows exactly when it's safe to move out, and he knows when it's not okay to move out. Not just the double eBay, but also making sure as soon as he saw those roaches, scans the natural. And he knows, depending on what he sees, because he already scanned the main, like no Baneling Nest in the main, scans the natural, double Evo chambers, both wiggling, no Baneling Nest. He doesn't really have to react to this at all. Whereas some other players, they see the roaches and they immediately think, this is an all-in. This is Roach Bank. This is 1-1 speed Roach. This is just a huge amount of roaches with lings. And Taeja knows what to look for. He knows how to interpret what he sees, and it allows him to continue to maintain the solid advantages that he's getting by exploiting those Hellions.
Yeah, viOlet. Man, this is just so tricky. I keep trying to think of what he can do, and I look at the next map. I look at Merry-Go-Round. And the only thing I can think of is, it's not a bad map for roaches. But Taeja doesn't really seem to be too concerned about that. We haven't, as many roach horns as we've seen built in this best of 5 so far, we have not actually seen any real roach pushes brought to Taeja's base because he simply can't get there without, you said, losing half of his workers.
And it definitely feels like viOlet wanted to go roaches on Nimbus. I think on Catalina, the roaches were more of a way to try and bait his opponent into overreacting to either Roach Bane or making siege tanks. And on Merry-Go-Round, we might, I don't know, maybe viOlet's going to he's going to change up the pace of the game. Instead of going hatch first, maybe go for some early ling pressure, maybe a pull first, maybe something even crazier than that. Some players have been known to go like 14-14 every once in a while. I don't know. I don't think that makes a huge amount of sense against Taeja because Taeja doesn't seem to open extremely risky. But Taeja does like CC first, and he has not gone CC first yet in this match.
Yeah. I think viOlet's it's not quite the early pooler. It's not really that impression you get. I've seen him do it on other maps like King Sejong Station.
Yep.
Where you can, we kind of discussed this over the course of the weekend, just throwing a couple of Zerglings around, dancing in certain areas. Merry-go-round, not really an option for that.
Right.
So I feel like this is just viOlet has to find a way to safely get to the mid game, and even then, I feel like it's almost discounting him, saying that just getting there is going to be enough at this point. But
well, getting there is the first step.
Yeah. Well, we're ready to kick off this third game, potentially the last of this series, if this Terran player can take it. A lot of you guys know who he is. He's been around the world. He's got championships everywhere. Representing Team Liquid, he is Taeja.
And here we do see our Zerg player currently down 0-2. He needs all the support and help you can give him. Give it up for viOlet!
Winning 3 games in a row here would, for viOlet, I think, be perhaps the biggest upset of the tournament, because I'm no longer surprised that Snoot is beating Kespa Protosses.
After you've seen it a couple of times.
After just watching Snoot play, like, I actually don't know if we can call those upsets, because I still think he has the chance to go much further in this tournament.
Yeah, Snoot has shown that his performances are not a fluke.
No.
He's a consistently strong player, and Taeja is. Yep, there's the early pool.
Okay.
Interesting.
I didn't think merry-go-round was the map for this, to be honest. There's a couple, I guess. The Reaper, because it can jump up cliffs, it usually avoids the standard pathing that a Worker Scout takes. And for example, these Zerglings, and it makes it pretty predictable. As long as Taeja doesn't SCV Scout, or if he goes to the wrong base, you shouldn't see this coming.
Yep, and this is a little bit of a probability move, because, like you said, if the SCV Scout goes to the right base, or if Taeja chooses, does not or does SCV Scout, whatever, there's a chance that he won't see this coming at all. But there's also a chance that Taeja will SCV Scout, go to the right base, see 6 Lings, and just be ahead economically.
Yeah, the first, all you have to do is keep your Reaper at home. And Taeja likes to send it out. I think an example of a player that plays very defensively with the Reaper, we saw Flash on King Sejong Station, I believe, against Scarlet. He kept his first Reaper. Yep. Just barely outside of his natural, just to make sure if there were fastlings coming that they wouldn't be able to get in. I think Flash, Taeja in this series, with this, well, I guess that's if you just wall the reactor.
He's moving out. The Reaper's going to go through the main. The Lings are taking the very around route. He expected the Reaper to take the kind of the in-between route, but here we do see the Reaper is going to get to viOlet's base, and as soon as he sees this hatchery, as soon as he sees this hatchery, he's going to go into the main, check for the gases, and then he's going to go home immediately. Especially with this build, there's just nothing at home. There's no second Reaper coming, right?
Yeah.
And so that makes it very hard to do. Yeah, cancels it.
Yeah, really nice pickup for viOlet. This is the best start he's been able to grab for himself so far. And you make a good point. Of course, Taeja, by the time that Reaper sees it, sure, he's like, well, normally a hatchery would be done by now, but in this instance, it's too late. It's too late when he finds out.
And now Taeja, he's going to be able to kill these 6 Zerglings, and the Zerglings are really, they're done. They're not going to do much else. He can split them up a little bit to try and keep them alive, but you can see Taeja is actually microing. He was microing away from the current Zergling. He was fighting towards the other ones that were on the map, making it harder and harder for viOlet to actually get them away. Another Zergling does get caught, and the final Zergling is not doing a very good job of playing hide and go seek.
No, that last Ling, though, he's the survivor. And these 2 Overlords, actually, that viOlet had by the natural. If these Marines for Taeja, if he had built 4 Marines and actually walked down his ramp to his natural, he might have killed 2 Overlords.
Yep.
Those guys were way out by the ramp.
And Ling is going to just sit in the natural. You can check for the expansion timing. And Taeja absolutely made the correct decision to cancel the command center immediately and restart it on the top of the ramp. It's a bad position to be in, but that's just how it goes sometimes. And the Ling actually saw the starport and the tech lab. So he knows that Taeja may be going for Cloak. Taeja immediately actually starts a third command center and uses that extra. He delays the Banshee and potentially the Cloak. I'm not even sure he's going to get Cloak. He doesn't make any Hellions until just now. The factory has been done.
I think that's just a side effect. That's his way of trying to catch up.
Yep.
By taking the risk of not building Hellions. When I say risk, I mean if Violet had built a ton of Lings, and imagine if he had a Baneling nest, or if he was doing some sort of crazy follow-up all-in, and he was able to get in, things would have gotten very crazy.
Right.
But we can see he's going for a lair, the double evolution chamber and the Roach Horn. This is going to be that Roach play.
Yeah, it's going to be it. And all the other games we saw Taeja with that decisive early worker advantage. Now it is Violett. 44 drones, 50 drones to 29 workers. That's a 20 worker disparity. And even with those mules, that still means that Violet's got a significantly higher income. Taeja now scouting for that third base, does not see it, so he knows his opponent is on 2 base. He's going to have to do some aggressive scouting soon if he wants to figure out what's going on. And here we do see the Reaper jumping into Violet's natural, and it's going to just see whatever it can see. He'll probably scan the main in just a moment, depending on... Well, he has no energy quite yet, but he'll probably scan... Oh, no, the Banshee's in the main.
Yeah,
so
the Banshee can see the lair, too.
Yeah. The Banshee sees the lair. He saw the evolution chambers in the Roach Horn at the front. He pretty much... No, he didn't see the Roach Horn. That's the only piece of the puzzle that Taeja does not have.
As far as the Hellions, he kind of left them back. That's really crazy that he sees those evolution chambers and not the Roach Horn.
Yep.
I think this Banshee, if it dances around enough, should be able to spot it.
I think the Banshee's gonna...
Oh, well...
Ooh,
he doesn't have-
five health.
Yeah, without Cloak, he doesn't really have a whole lot he can do.
Yep. And the Cloakless Banshee is a nice decision from Taeja because it got scouted. Forces the Spore Crawlers from his opponent, but does not commit quite as much. Double upgrades coming for Taeja, and the third command center will probably be floating out soon. But I don't think Taeja has seen roaches. Oh, here's the Hellion. Here we go. Now he knows.
Now he definitely knows
Yep.
there are roaches. QXC, how many bunkers is he going to build? How does he defend? He immediately floats the command center back.
Yep.
He starts a reactor on his factory, cancels it, starts a tech lab.
Yep.
Okay, 2 bunkers. Still, how many times have we seen a Terran player with 8 or 9 Marines just die to this?
Yeah, man, this is an incredibly strong push, and it all depends on how much Violett decides to commit to it. You can see he's building 8 drones right now, and that means this push isn't going... It's not as much designed to kill Taeja as it is to keep him on 2 base while he saturates his third. As soon as Violett's got a saturated third, he'll be able to... He can allow Taeja to take his natural or third and be okay, but the Roaches move up the ramp right now, trying to kill Supply Depot.
Yeah, they will be able to break it. Of course, they want to run past the bunker. The Marine Stim SCV's forced to be pulled, and he just kills them. He's like, yep, okay, kill some workers while I saturate my base, like you said, QXC. The Banshee comes back. He's killing depots. Taeja is now supply blocked. His first tank's about to finish, and this push won't kill Taeja, but it certainly slowed him down a lot.
Yeah, and the Roach is doing a fair amount of damage in the main. He's going to continue to run, and even if, well, every time these Roaches stop, they are killing an SCV. That's another SCV going down. As long as it's the same thing, 3 Hellions, 3 Roaches, one-shotting those workers. And now the Roach's usefulness is expired, but the damage was done.
Yeah, nice work here for Violett. Taeja scans and he sees a Hydralisk end. So
Yep.
he already, I think, as a Terran player myself, this is the part where you're like, oh, I don't have my third base fully saturated yet. Oh no, I'm supply blocked, because once these two upgrades are done, these Hydralisks have their groove spines, they have their muscular augments. Taeja just simply should not be able to afford enough production to set up the proper defense for this.
Wow, you know what all those upgrades are called.
I'm a nerd.
The other big thing for Taeja, and this is going back to, even though the Roaches, they killed stuff, but they didn't kill a ton of stuff. But they did distract Taeja, like you said, supply block, and also his armory. It was like, oh, a nice pickup from Taeja. 2 queens go down. Scan, he's going to clear up some of the creep and immediately back up. He knows that Violett has a significant amount of army here, but any little surprise attack he can make is going to be favorable.
Yeah, it's slowing down the Zerg is usually difficult, because the way this army for Violett works is you just sit home and defend. And as those upgrades finish, your third base really finishes paying off as well, and you just get a giant swell of Roach Hydra. But Taeja, he's not tunnel visioning anything in particular. He is going to build siege tanks one at a time, and I don't think that 2 tanks with how wide open this map is are going to cut it. He's still significantly down in supply, still hitting supply blocks here and there, and these are all the things that make holding this type of push difficult. It all started with viOlet making that very first aggressive pull. Taeja needs to make some magic happen because this attack could very well kill him.
Yep. And for now, Taeja's just going to be on the defensive. Probably will want to add a couple more bunkers. The 2 siege tanks clustered together. Third siege tank is coming out here, but it's a long way away for his +2 upgrades. If viOlet is very crisp with this timing, he's going to be +2/+2 against Taeja's 1/1, and not even any upgrades for his tanks. The tank's not doing a ton of damage here. And you can see viOlet's starting to posture on the map. He wants to establish, Taeja, where is your army, so that he doesn't have to be too concerned about a doom drop. He doesn't. At this point, he does not want to go into a base trade. He knows he's got the head-on fight. That's going to be favorable for him, and it looks like he's moving in just now. 2-2 about to finish up.
Yeah, Taeja has some tanks. He has some bunkers. Look at where viOlet's moving, though. He's getting prepared to just barge up the main ramp, or at least fight this army away from the tanks. Taeja does not want to fight here. He wants all his tanks to attack. He wants the bunkers. Now the Zerg swarming in, all the SCVs being pulled. But this push QXC, it's killed many Terrans, and I do not believe it will stop today.
And viOlet is crushing through. He has just destroyed every unit that Taeja has. GG! viOlet coming back in the series now 1-2.
Just a single map away from tying things up here. Taeja still just needs one more victory to eliminate his Zerg foe, but viOlet, it's got to feel good. He didn't do anything that was too far outside what he had originally planned in game number 1 and game 2, but he didn't take the early losses. He made that nice little play with the 14 pull to catch Taeja off guard and cancel his command center. Just, taking step by step and not being vulnerable really allowed him to do what he actually intended rather than have to play as a response to losing drones.
Yeah, you can see Taeja kind of... You can see the game going over in Taeja's mind right now. He did a little bit of the head shake, just what should I have done? It's just a thing that happens. It's a little bit of a risk because it all has to. There's so many things that all have to go right for that to work out in the way that it does. The Zerg player has to go pool first. The Zerg player then has to avoid your Reaper. You also have to be going one Reaper. Second Reaper would be a little bit easier to defend. You'd have something at home. And then you have to also have chosen not to SCV scout. And when all those factors come together, you see that type of thing. Canceled command center, the Zerg player getting so many workers ahead. And then the Roaches, I think getting into the natural was kind of inevitable. It's very hard to keep that supply depot alive. But then allowing the Roaches to get into his main resulted in so many more worker deaths and also a much longer cleanup time. And that's what led to him getting supply blocked so often. His armory was much later because he was so distracted by these Roaches. And then, of course, the additional SCV kills.
Yeah, I think for Taeja, he's already got his smile back. I think for Taeja, you take those losses. You're like, man, I knew I was slowed down at the beginning, but once you kill those Roaches and you scan and you see that the 2-2's already on the way, the Hydralisk Den is done and upgrading, you realize, okay, this is a game where I know I'll probably lose, but I can already start to think about the next one. And King Sajan Station, I actually still like it for the style that viOlet plays. I still like it for the Roach push. You have multiple ways to attack with a big attack because of the rocks in your natural expansion. But Taeja, he's not going to be, I think, this game quite as nonchalant about his scouting. Might see an SCV scout with his Reaper. We might even see a command center first. I'm not entirely sure.
Sejong is like the map that people started doing that pool first build on. And I've seen Taeja play Sejong a whole bunch of times, and he almost always SCV scouts. He keeps a Reaper at home. He does something because of the prevalence of that build here. I don't think Taeja's going to let himself get caught by that sort of play anymore in this series.
Yeah, it's going to be all straight up play. We're just straight up Roaches from here on out. As we're still match point here for our Terran player in the top left position. Winning 2-1 right now in the quarterfinals of the Intel Extreme Masters Toronto. He is Liquid's Taeja.
And in the bottom right-hand corner, coming off a very devious and deceptive build, he's reestablishing himself in this tournament. He is viOlet. All right, what do you think? CC first?
I like it sometimes on this map.
Think so?
I mean, if
Think
you
might? Yeah.
probably,
I don't think so.
I think he likes Reaper more. He's kind of shown.
Yeah.
A player like Taeja.
When I see Taeja CC first, it's almost always on a 4-player map. And he does it in a way that he seems to only have... Oh, yeah. He seems to only have one CC first build. And it's like CC, Barracks Gas, CC Factory. And he uses that 4-player map as a way to kind of reduce the ability of the Zerg to scout him. The Overlords usually aren't in position as easily. There's more space to cover between the bases. Like you said, he really likes Reaper, and that's what we're going to see this game once again.
So yeah, it really gives the impression that he just doesn't like having the possibility of being caught off guard. There is another pool first opening this game, which means there's a chance for similar shenanigans as the last game to come up. But it's kind of funny to compare someone like Taeja, the way that he plays, to someone like Flash, who's willing to go for command center first on maps where we almost never see it.
Yep.
Maps like, I'd say sometimes King Station, but even against Protoss on Overgrowth, generally the smaller maps are the ones where you want to be more defensive on.
Right. And wow, Taeja's not SCV scouting. That seems so weird to me. Because I remember watching him in Shenzhen on this map, and he was very, very careful about the threat of these early Lings. And viOlet may be able to do what he just did to him again. And that is scary to me.
Yeah, it's very weird to think that this could potentially happen to Taeja twice. Reaper's done. Yeah, he's going to move that barracks over and start his reactor. So where does this Reaper go? That's the most important thing we're going to look at in the next minute or so.
Yeah,
okay, he's pulled it back.
Yep. I've seen Taeja do this as well. He'll use that Reaper. He doesn't SCV scout, but he'll either scout in kind of a weird way, or he'll keep it at home. And he knew viOlet is caught here. One Ling goes down. The other Lings, he's got to commit to killing as much as he can. The Lings, they cannot go home now. He's going to use... oh, wow, he's pulling 4 SCVs.
Yeah, he really does not want this command center delayed at all. That's a bit much, I think.
Oh, one SCV goes down, and a second SCV does fall, and the Ling gets into his base. Taeja.
I think this is a bit more than viOlet thought he was going to get when he ran into a Reaper after doing this pull first.
Taeja, what's going on, man? What's happening? Let's cool it down. Maybe that last game really got to Taeja's calm a little bit more, but he seemed so unflustered in the booth. He was laughing. He was telling jokes. I can only imagine they were jokes. They were all in Korean in the lobby, but him and viOlet were definitely having a little discussion about the last game. And but that decision to pull all those SCVs down the ramp, like, you can basically force those 6 Lings, at most, they will kill 1 SCV. You just raise the depot, you run that 1 SCV around, you kill the rest of them with the Reaper, and then the command center is a little bit more delayed, but by bringing the SCVs down, you're losing mining time, and you're exposing additional SCVs to the Zergling. So a little bit of a strange decision.
Yeah, definitely not what I was expecting, but, you know, Taeja's the kind of guy that this isn't quite the amount of damage that viOlet was able to do in the last game, which leads me to believe that Taeja still isn't as good of a position as I think he really wanted to be versus that pool first. But certainly, as you said, don't want to lose those workers. Moving forward here, Taeja, we can see that he's going for this 3 command center build. viOlet has once again taken these late gases. Is it just going to be roaches once more, QXC?
Well, he's not started a lair. He's just hit 100 gas. Lair.
All right.
And if you're going to go lair before any sort of buildings at all, you're going roaches, I guess. I was thinking Spire, but the Roach Warren has just started here, so that's probably what it's going to be. And viOlet's actually up to 5 queens. So a couple more buildings in the natural, he'll be able to stabilize against that. Double Evo chambers going down. Oh, you just know what viOlet's going to do, Nate.
You know what? I've cast viOlet's probably maybe like 50 games viOlet's played in the last 4 months. He loves roaches versus Terran. A lot.
And let's see, what does Taeja know? Taeja saw the Roach Warren. He saw a second Evo chamber. And he's going to wall off with double Evos. Third CC is done. He knows there's no third. And so it's really just and he went back up the ramp. He confirmed the Roach Warren, the double Evo chambers. Now the sick mind game here is if you just like build a Spire. Like you build a Roach Warren, double Evos, you don't do anything with them, you build a Spire. Of course, you have a little bit less money because you put some money into the Roach Warren and the drones, but...
I feel like it's still tricky because as he delays his third base more, like Taeja is still going to build Marines either way. And they're still going to be good versus Mutalisks. He's just not going to have as many Mutas as he would have for making these upgrades.
But right now, Taeja's building a Marauder out of his barracks, and I bet you he'll be making a second Marauder out of that barracks as well. Of course, he just confirmed that all of the Zerg structures are doing their dance, so there's no threat of the Muta. That's just a hypothetical.
Would be interesting.
Yep.
I would lose to it on ladder, so I'll give you credit for that.
And the Hellions continuing to poke around here. He's been looking for an opportunity to run by. That's part of the reason he keeps checking in with the Hellions. But viOlet is doing a much better job of securing his natural. He's kind of whatever little mistakes, whatever little issues he had in those first 2 games, he seems to have resolved. And now it's going to be on Taeja to figure out how do you deal with this 1-1 Roach timing.
Yeah, I mean, so not having taken the same loss as the last time that this was pulled out, maybe he just wants to add on a couple of extra bunkers in the low ground. Ideally, like you said, on merry-go-round, it's all about denying the Terran third base so that Roach Hydra push kills them.
Yep.
But I feel like it's not that difficult to get the defenses that you need for the Roach Hydra push if this doesn't kill you. However, that's a lot of Roaches, QXC.
Can Taeja hold this? I think
he doesn't have enough
this
Marines.
Might be too ambitious for Taeja. Stimming now, the Roach is moving in. They're going to focus fire that bunker, and the bunker goes down. And now Taeja's going to have to move up the ramp. Stim is going to wear off in just a moment here. And the Roach is with 1-1. Taeja's 1-1 is seconds away. That's going to make a big difference, but the units are pretty low.
Yeah, Medivacs do come out. Roaches get right on top. Of course, they're very low range. They love getting close to these Marauders. SCV's pulled off the line, and viOlet, man, he's showing you why everybody, well, at least to tell you what, a lot of Terran players don't like playing versus Roaches on ladder.
Yep, and now viOlet's actually he's established some measure of control in the natural. The SCV's forced to evacuate. There are some SCVs mining at the third, but Taeja now reduced to a very limited amount of mining. He's going to try and go down the ramp and focus fire down these Roaches, taking them out. The SCV's going back to mining, and viOlet's just continuing to focus fire down SCVs. He's reducing Taeja's economy in such a huge way. 39 workers to 65.
Yeah, big losses for Taeja, and even though that third command center, he's got some SCVs mining there, but 22 workers lost. Look at what's on the production tab. 2-2. The Hydralisk end just finished. Taeja is so flustered about this attack slowing his upgrades now that he has started 2 armories. I don't think he's switching into mech, QXC.
I would not. Yes, you are correct. I do not think he's going mech. He's just on the defensive here, on the ropes, having a lot of trouble stabilizing after a push like that. And viOlet does it in such a smart way. He knows exactly how much damage he needs to do in order to make this subsequent follow-up attack that much so effective. He's limited Taeja's economy, he's limited his production, and he's got in Taeja's head, making it harder for him to macro. And now it's just going to be a race to 200 as both players frantically try and make as many units as they can. viOlet in order to crush Taeja, and Taeja in order to survive. There is no timing for Taeja until he maxes out, but if he cannot get to 200 supply, then there's never a timing for him in the game.
Yeah, Roach Hydra, it's all about using the way that Zerg production works. Just get out a crazy amount of units because, like you said, when Taeja hits 200 supply of just Marine, Marauder, Medevac, with reasonable positioning, the Bio Army destroys Roach Hydra if you can get a good spread and if you have enough forces. But this is, as we can see, if we look at the supply, a small period where viOlet can hit with these upgrades finishing and just have way more than Taeja.
Yep, and Taeja's plan in this game is actually to go for a backstab. As soon as he gets, you can see his Marines positioned away from his base. As soon as he sees the army moves out, the army outside of viOlet's base is starting to get closer and closer. He wants to confirm that there's actually the big army moving to his base. As soon as he does that, he's going to move into viOlet's natural and try and establish control here. Meanwhile, viOlet has actually decided to come back home. He's going to delay his timing here. Taeja's going to pick up and continue to pressure. Oh, the full medevac goes down. Huge amount of supply for Taeja lost there, and that's going to open up opportunities for viOlet to actually make his push.
Yeah, I was going to say, Taeja seemed to be doing a really good job of keeping viOlet on his toes. And I'd say that, we have a couple more siege tanks we had in the last time that this push came. And the way that this map is structured, it's not as easy for viOlet to just sidestep the tanks.
Yeah, no matter where he goes, he's going to have to deal with some siege tanks. The problem right now is he's got no bunkers except for this one up at the third. And he's going to, viOlet, a lot of Hydralisks do get caught here. And it looks like Taeja is taking a very nice engagement there. A couple early losses for viOlet.
Yeah, these Hydras are so squishy without the Roach support. They go down very fast. Now the Roaches show up, the tanks wailing away from every direction. The Hydras are going to dive in on the tanks from the top side. There's still a lot of Marines and Marauders left. He will kill these Hydras on the right. He has SCVs left, and Taeja takes what seems to be a much, much better battle than at least the end of the last game.
Yeah, Taeja in a much better spot than he was, but viOlet still with a supply lead here. When you're thinking about Roaches and Hydras versus a Terran army, the biggest thing to recognize is that the Zerg Roach Hydra army is very supply inefficient and very cost efficient. And what that means is viOlet's going to max faster, but when Taeja catches up in supply, Taeja's army is going to be stronger. So basically, it's going to be on viOlet now to either make another push happen before Taeja is able to catch up in supply, or to make the transition into Hive Tech with those higher supply density units, such as Vipers and Broodlords, that have so much power for how little supply they cost.
Yeah, reduce that Infestation Pit finishing up now for viOlet. Taeja starts his +3 attack. He does have double siege tank production, and as good as tanks are versus this.
Why did he build a second infestation pit?
Oh.
All right, so 2 armories versus 2 infestation pits.
You can really tell how stressed both players are right now.
They are really fighting for their lives right now. And that's a little surprising to me because both of these players are very experienced tournament veterans. One thing to note, though, is these guys have not been home for a long time. Well, actually, maybe they have not been home for an extended period for a long time. I'm not sure if viOlet went home between Red Bull Detroit and this event.
No, I found out he did not, actually.
He did not. So both players have been on the road for a while, and it may start to be affecting their psyche here as the double infestation pit, the double armory, uncharacteristic mistakes from both players.
Yeah, the scan on the Hive is really important, though. Taeja knows that if he wants to make a maxed out push, he needs to be very careful.
Yep.
Because once the Hive is out, siege tanks, yeah, they're okay versus Roach Hydra. They're great if you can fight just Roach Hydra. But if you're fighting against Roach Hydra Viper and your tanks are clumped, you pretty much just lose.
Is there going to be a fight? Are we gonna fight here? Is that what's... No.
I don't think Taeja has enough of his army here to fight this.
I think viOlet's plan for now is just to continue to control the map via creep. Make sure that he's not really vulnerable to big drops or counterplay, and then get into the Hive Tech. And whether that's Infestors, I guess Infestors aren't really Hive Tech, but they're so far away from just regular Roach Hydra that they kind of are. They're like the in-between tech. Vipers, of course, being the first Hive Tech that you really have access to that's going to make a big difference for the Roach Hydra. And usually after that, we would see Broodlords.
Yeah, he's got 5 Infestors on the way, as Pathogen Gland is about to finish up in that Spire.
Yep.
I guess Broodlords are also a pretty solid counter to siege tanks. They're just a bit more difficult to reach.
Yeah, they're a lot higher on the tech tree. They may take a lot more time and resources to get to, but their effectiveness in forcing the unsiege is undeniable. Taeja actually sieging a ton of takes on the high ground. And this is a very interesting fight for viOlet. He's got a full concave, but there are so many siege tanks here.
viOlet bleeding out a ton of his Roach Hydra, and Infestor throws a fungal, but the fight's over, man.
Yep, and this is kind of the situation I was referring to earlier. Taeja is maxed. He knows it's his time to move out. viOlet really needs some higher tech, some higher power in order to take these fights effectively. And whether that's Vipers or Infestors, pure Roach Hydra, especially without 3-3, is just not going to cut it anymore.
No, it's not going to do it at all. The +3 armor just now finishing for Taeja as he has +3 attack coming in. Without Vipers, you really can't beat this. The tanks, yes, maybe if he catches them on siege, but most of them he's keeping at least half of his tanks siege together. That's a nice
fungal growth. He's going to try and get one more there. You can see Taeja's moving his army up, trying to keep those units alive, and that's going to drain the Medivacs, but the Medivacs have too much energy to be bullied around in that fashion.
4 Vipers on the way for viOlet. This is what you want. You've got a Terran player that's on creep. Even if you kill some of the tumors, the creep does take a very long time to go away. So you can use this to get a positional advantage, and then once you blinding cloud the Terran, you just swoop in for the kill.
Yeah, the big problem for viOlet right now is these Vipers are incredibly late. 22 minutes. The Hive has been done for several minutes here. Greater Spire just now started, but viOlet doesn't really have the economy to make Broodlords at this point.
Yeah, these Vipers need to get some energy up. They all have at least enough energy for 1 blinding cloud. So Taeja, every step he takes on creep, as long as viOlet can see this army, he knows there's a chance. And a couple of these tanks very close together. There's the blinding clouds now going to come in. The Vipers step forward. The first one on 3 tanks, covering another one. And a lot of these Marines Marauders, every tank save 1, blinded, and the Fungals holding the bio in place. Taeja needs to get the hell out of here.
And a little bit of the siege tanks at the bottom may be able to wait until the blinding cloud is off, but now they have no support. viOlet's going to go in and clean those tanks up. Taeja's coming in from behind, manages to pick off 1 queen. That infestor is going to escape just barely.
Taeja not stopping with the pressure despite losing his tank count. He realizes, hey, I still traded against the Roach Hydra forces, and you know, viOlet could have, I think, remaxed very quickly and maybe tried to attack again, but he really wants to get these Broodlords out. He has a lot of resources saved up, and he already has 6 Corruptors on the map.
He's saving his money for that Greater Spire, which is just about to finish. 6 Broodlords are morphing.
There's nothing that Taeja has, like just a couple of Vikings. He's now producing 3 at a time, but that is going to be still very difficult to do because then those Vipers can abduct the Vikings. The Hydralisks can take care of them, and also, yes, still worry about the fungal growth.
Oh, he's moving in here, forcing a little bit of fight where viOlet is not really paying attention. Again, canceling that 4th. And I think the Vikings are more in response to the
Vipers.
Yeah, he doesn't.
I was like, I don't think he scouted that Greater Spire.
He doesn't know about the Greater Spire because otherwise he'd be making more Vikings. He does now scan the Broodlords, and that will probably trigger him to just get out of there. Is Taeja going to try and fight this? Yeah, he actually is. He's going to try and spread out his units. Abducts on the Vikings. They immediately evaporate. Whoa.
Yeah, the big problem is, as nice as this trying to run in here, just snipe 1 or 2 of the Broodlords, another one. The Vikings going to town. He still has to worry about these Hydralisks.
The Vipers aren't doing anything. They don't have enough energy for a blinding cloud, and he's not being aggressive enough about restoring their energy on these Evo chambers, on the extractors. The blinding cloud plus the Broodlords makes the Broodlords almost invincible to a ground army.
He ran a couple units in, sniped one of the infestors. Taeja is, this is I feel like a very difficult dance to perform when you don't have a lot of Vikings at least versus Broodlords. There's the blinding clouds on the tanks. He's ready to move the Roach Hydra in, and with the Broodlord support, is this going to be enough to actually break this?
It looks like Taeja's getting pushed back here. As soon as the siege tanks don't have any support, the Vikings are not enough to take out the Broodlords, and viOlet is pushing Taeja back.
Yeah, but Taeja's had this 4th base, this 5th base now for a little while. He's got a lot of money in the bank. viOlet's been sitting on just his original 3, what seems like half this game, as Taeja just got more money to burn. And viOlet has been on still the not as cost-effective side of the resources lost tab.
Yeah, and a couple of these battles were just too early. The Vikings now moving in. 1 Broodlord goes down. The other Broodlord's doing a little bit of damage, but the Hydralisk able to kill the Broodlord so quickly. Taeja now stemming sieges the tank. Is viOlet going to be able to break through and hold on in this tournament?
It looks like no, QXC. Those Broodlings don't have any attack upgrades. They actually don't even hurt these Marines and Marauders. And Taeja just plows through, killing absolutely everything of viOlet. viOlet does not have the economy to replenish this force. I don't see how he's supposed to stop this. His 4th base is going to die again. These Marines are going to continue to move up the ramp, and there's just nothing else that he can do.
Yep, Taeja now on a solid 5-base economy. Everything is streaming across the map. There are 6 siege tanks coming. Wait, where is he going? Where is Taeja going?
He's just gonna.
Taeja is going on an adventure. He is going to explore Narnia. He is now returning to his base. He thought that he would allow viOlet.
He really wanted to kill those rocks. That was the most important thing right now in this game for Taeja.
Taeja decided that killing the rocks with his entire army was more important than winning the game. I'm surprised he didn't land the Vikings to even help out.
Yeah, no, that's not. He's not really trying very hard. You can see there. But now he's getting ready to go and attack. And I think what you just said is pretty clear. These 3 Vipers are going to try to get maybe some miracle blinding clouds. But I think even if all these units had to fight at melee range, they would still win this battle.
200 supply versus 120 supply. viOlet's army looks puny at this point, but he is holding on. He knows that his only chance, well, one of his only chances for BlizzCon is coming out of this tournament. Anything he can do to go to a 5th game would be excellent. Blinding Clouds go down, but Taeja's gonna move in.
Way too much from the Terran player. Even the drones brought off by viOlet, not enough. And the Liquid Terran wants to take a 3-1 victory. Running up the ramp now into the natural. viOlet has nothing. 35 supply versus 200. Good game, good luck, thanks, and cheer for me. viOlet ever mannered as Taeja eliminates him from the Intel Extreme Masters Toronto to move on to the semis.
Well, there was like one major fight in there that just happened too early for viOlet. You know, he took that fight. He had that first fight, and they traded pretty well. viOlet got a lot of worker kills. He got his 4th established because of the map control that it gave him. And then instead of coming home and making the transition to Hive off of Roach Hydra needs to be before the Terran player gets max, because when it's Roach Hydra against the bio tank medevac and both players are max, there's just no way to win as a Zerg player. And so the Hive tech or the high infestor count, something has to be there in order to take that fight, and viOlet just got a little over eager, and then Taeja was able to use that mistake and turn it into a denied 4th base for the rest of the game.
Yeah, especially when you look at those armies that they had, it just was a bit tricky. No upgrades to the Broodlings, especially. Broodlords are nice, but when the Broodlings don't kill anything, it's tough. We're gonna hear now from the guys on the couch what they thought about that series. Definitely a tough one for viOlet.
Thank you very much. Yeah, Taeja's having more trouble with the wires than he had in that match, that's for sure, with his headset. Congratulations, Taeja. Another big victory and another semi-final. Explain to me how you took down viOlet over 4 maps.
일단 이긴 거 축하하고 경기보다 이거 헤드폰 쓰는 거에 더 고생을 하는 것 같네요.
네.
김동환 선수랑 경기에 대해서 잠깐 설명 좀 해주시죠.
일단 되게 맵이 제가 되게 좋은 맵들이 앞쪽에 배치돼 있어가지고 2대0으로 앞서 나갈 수 있었는데 그 3세트에서 바드라 딱 당하고 나서 동환이 형 바드라는 진짜 알고도 못 막는구나 딱 느꼈어요.
I heard the lucky word again.
No.
No.
No,
Okay.
that was your
good.
imagination.
Right. Just thought I was going to hear it again.
Map veto went heavily on my favor
Yes.
against viOlet. It
Okay.
was just spot on. And I was able to take the 2-0 lead because all the maps that I chose in the front were all favored to how I was going to play. And it just turned out exactly the way I wanted to play.
Right.
But in the 3rd game, I got Roach Hydra'd by viOlet. And I was like, man, I knew it was coming. But it was something else. It was something else. I couldn't block it. And that kind of felt a little bit weird. But 4th game, I was able to come back.
Close it out.
Close it out.
Okay, well done. When you saw that it was viOlet that you had to play, obviously it was going to be a Zerg either way. Your TvZ right now is hot. So you must have been really happy.
솔직히 이제 김동환 선수가 아니었더라도 이동현 선수가 올라왔더라도 둘 다 저그였기 때문에 자신이 아주 있으셨을 거라고 생각을 하는데
네.
어떻게 생각하시나요?
일단 저그전에 테란들이 요즘 질 수가 없다라 하더라고요. 그래가지고 저도 안 질 거라 생각했어요.
With the current meta, how I play, how everyone else has been playing, both all Terrans and all Zerg, I think Terrans are in favor when it comes to TvZ, at least with the current map pool and everything. So I had that mentality of there's no way in hell I could lose.
Okay, fair enough. When we spoke a couple of days ago, you said your TVT sucks. And now you were really worried about your TVT, but you came through a really hard group of Terran players. So surely now there's no worries for you anymore. Doesn't matter who you play from here on in, does it?
I don't want mid flash because TBT.
Okay, so only Flash is the worry right now. So as long as you don't play Flash, so Flash has to lose to Snoot now, your teammate.
Because summer is a season, but God's something else.
I was going to ask you about that. The sign says Summer of Taeja, Decade of God. So which one?
무슨 말인지 이해했어요.
아니요.
그러니까 저기 이제 팬들이 갖고 치어풀 중에서 이제 윤영서 선수 이제 닉네임이랑 해서 Summer of Taeja라고 있잖아요. 윤영서 선수 여름에 강하다. 그리고 이제 누구야 이영호 선수가 이제 여기 오고 나서 이제 신이 왔으니까 가디오가 왔으니까 이제 지금부터 이제 신의 시대라고 하는데 어떻게 생각하시나요?
뭐 신이 왔으니까 신의 시대겠죠. 네.
신이 왔으니까 물러서겠다.
네, 근데 신을 잡으면은 대단한 거죠. 잡고 싶어요.
Yeah, I'm just Summer of Taeja, and obviously I didn't see it, but if there's a cheerful that says Decade of the God, then well I accept because God is here. But then, what would it make me if I defeat the God?
The Slayer of God. Wow, that could
God
be.
Slayer.
Yeah, that could be some sort of new title. I'm pretty sure we've had one of those before, but nevertheless, it doesn't matter. What keeps you going? I want to know. You've won 11 titles. You won 3 already this year. You've won every single year during the summer months. We always make a thing about the fact that it's Summer of Taeja. What keeps you motivated? Why do you keep winning titles?
자, 벌써 올해 프로토스가 한 것처럼 11회 우승을 하셨는데 뭐 때문에 아직도 게임을 이제 임하고 계속 프로 선수로 이제 남고 싶어서 이제 뭐 어떤 목표를 달성하고 싶어서 지금 경기를 계속 하고 있는지.
일단
일까요?
은퇴하기 전까지 최대한 돈을 벌려고 하기 때문에 최대한 열심히 성능 내서 돈을 많이 벌고 떠나고 싶어요.
The motivation is quite simple. I want to rake as much prize money as possible before I retire. Because on the backstage, we always say, live your life like the big guy, like SOS, who just goes out and wins the biggest tournament ever all the time. When it comes to little ones, he just goes, yeah, meh, right?
Yeah.
So Taeja is all about the hard-working, I guess,
Okay.
like an ant-like
I
style.
would love the answer to have been more emotional or more about the game, but I accept that he's been truthful and
Reality.
honest with us that it's actually the money. And best of luck to you in the rest of the tournament, Taeja. Winning once more. Liquid Taeja, the Summer of Taeja continues. The good weather's still here. The Decade of God might well turn out to be a full start, but we'll find out next as our next quarterfinal is Flash versus Snoop.